everyone, and welcome to Punctuate Theatre and Dreamspeakers Virtual Indigenous Artist Hub. I'm Rebecca Sadowski, a Métis dance and theatre artist from Edmonton, and I'm also an artistic associate with Punctuate Theatre. Today, I have the honor of sitting down with the incredible Marie Marchand, a member of Cold Lake First Nation. She is a Cree Métis visual artist, currently residing in Smoky Lake.
I'm an artist right now, and let's say there's an area that I want to go into, and there is an area that I want to go into, so I actually have to follow this process. I'll have to take my tobacco and my gifts and approach the person who is the master in that particular art form, give it to them, and ask, will you teach me? And when they take that tobacco, there's an unwritten rule that I am going to learn from this person, but not as an artist. I'm going to learn their craft exactly as they teach me. My ego is on the shelf.
She was a student at the Boreal Forest Institute for the Indigenous Arts, a published author, and an educator. She also engages in advocacy work, mentoring youth, and sharing Indigenous culture as a tool for accessing positive change. Marie was also the first Indigenous artist in residence with the City of Edmonton in 2017 and 2018. Some of Marie's painting series our viewers might be familiar with are Sky Ponies, Cookum Flowers, Coming Home, and Box Runners. So Marie, thank you so much for joining us here on our program, and I'm so excited to chat with you more about the work that you're doing right now and your art practices.
Thank you for having me.
My cat's just hopped up.
Do you hear my bird?
Is that your bird? I was wondering.
My bird. I won't let him upstairs. He's at the door screaming. Last fall, or last summer, I guess, I decided to move away from Edmonton. My intention was to move here and just live in my studio in my garage.
Yeah.
But somebody found out I was here, and the Smoky Lake Chamber of Commerce came to me and asked, can we exhibit your work? And then they took me where they wanted me to exhibit the work, and it was the tiniest little bakery. When they realized that some of the work is 8 feet wide, they were like, where can we exhibit it? And we were just chatting, and I had told them they had found out about the Indigenous Artists Market Collective.
Yeah.
And I told them how we started by curating windows in downtown Edmonton. So that's where the idea came from. And then the businesses kind of were like, hey, that sounds cool, let's do it. I pretty much live in my studio anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still creating art and I'm still coming up with ideas. It does give me a little bit of freedom because now I can explore some stuff that I was so project-based before. I was focused on that. So it frees me up to play around with my mediums a little bit.
Right.
But I did take a huge hit when COVID came. I lost a lot of contracts immediately. It was like within the first 2 weeks, I lost 6 or 7 contracts. We had such momentum going into COVID. The Indigenous arts were things were going well. People were looking for our work, and people were able to see our work in mainstream a little bit more. And so I fear a little bit that because it is a marginalized group and not having that forward momentum, we're going to have to start. It's going to be a rough start.
If you could speak a bit more to what the Treaty 6 soccer ball means.
Free Footy is a not-for-profit soccer program for inner city kids.
Yeah.
And they have like thousands of kids now that participate. And basically it's an opportunity for kids to play soccer for free, learn the teamwork, learn the skills. Every year they commission a ball, and that ball is given to every one of their students that participates.
Wow.
So everybody gets a free soccer ball. And
wow.
My concept was completely different for anything that they had ever been approached for before.
Yeah.
But I said that I thought that the most important thing that these young people in the inner city needed to know was who their Indigenous neighbors were, right? And so in Edmonton, there's 8 different nations that are close to Edmonton. So these are your neighbors, and these are if you're going to bump into Indigenous people, you'll probably bump into people from these nations. If you're going to do business, you're going to be doing business with these nations. And so the Edmonton Treaty 6 soccer ball was all about recognizing what land you're in, which is Treaty 6 territory, recognizing that it's Cree territory, and recognizing the 8 nations that are closest to Edmonton. I did a painting, and we somehow managed to get that painting printed on a soccer ball.
Oh, that's amazing.
And over 1,000 kids went home with that soccer ball that year. I'm grateful for it because I had been already doing a lot of work regarding treaty and understanding treaty and reconciliation, and what does that really mean without whitewashing it? Yeah, right. Absolutely. What does it actually look like and walk like? For me, that was a major boost because people recognized that ball from all over.
I wonder if you could speak a bit to your time as the Indigenous Artist in Residence for the City of Edmonton.
Before I became the Indigenous Artist in Residence, I had been homeless for a number of years. And I had literally just gotten my first apartment in like 2 years when I started that position.
Wow.
And it was also the year my son was graduating from high school. He was able to graduate and he had that, there was enough food, there was no fear that the rent wasn't going to be paid for all of that time. That was really, really great to have that experience. As for my art practice, because of that homelessness situation, I was what's called in the hustle. So I was working hand to mouth and producing artwork just to survive. Yeah. And when you're in that hustle, you kind of do what you can. What you can sell, what is available, you're not necessarily going to be pursuing these really big, grandiose ideas. You just literally have no money for it. Yeah. So the opportunity to actually do large-scale paintings opened up for me, and I did a number of them while I was the Indigenous Artist in Residence. As the Indigenous Artist in Residence, and Christine Fredericks and I are very much aligned in this, that when you create a space, you create space not just for yourself, but you create for others, and you create that opportunity for others. I started getting a lot of calls and a lot of emails and a lot of requests for things that are just not my thing. I'm not a beater. I don't make moccasins. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. My time as the Indigenous Artist in Residence was actually creating dialogue between the business community, the infrastructure of the city of Edmonton, and where can you get all of these things that you're asking me for? Because there was no way that one person could handle all of the requests that were happening. Yeah. I was like, okay, I invited 50 artists and 200 members of the city. Wow. And I was like, here, these are our dancers, these are our carvers, these are our drum makers, for me, I think that was the more important work. Yes, my own personal art practice, it allowed me to work with things that I just never dreamed I could work with. Yeah. But I think what I'm proudest about is that we started that work of introducing the artists to the city, and getting some of these people who've been doing this work for years some recognition. Yes, there's systemic racism that's embedded within it. However, I find that most of the time barriers are pragmatics, meaning bus passes, meaning transportation, meaning costs for materials. Indigenous artists in particular are exceptionally innovative. They will figure out a way. And I know this within my own practice. You know, if I don't have it, well, then I will figure it out. The problem with doing incredible things on no budget is people expect amazing things for free. You're looking at poverty and you look at how poverty works. When people say the bottom line, okay, well, she made $5,000 for that. They're not saying how much of that I paid out in other people that I had to pay.
Exactly.
And all of that kind of stuff. So when it came down to it, I actually go backwards. By the time that thing actually gets up and runs, I go backwards. No matter what, if we don't have the same accreditation as other people, then we are just literally being asked to work for nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the reason why I had to leave Edmonton. There was just way too many of these wonderful opportunities where I was getting all of this exposure, and I was still backwards. I could not move ahead. Then maybe people won't expect me to work for free anymore, or work for half, or work for a third, or work for gift cards.
I think a lot of artists watching this are going to see themselves in what you're saying. And I think that probably goes throughout various fields and disciplines of art. And it's really important to say those words out loud.
How I was introduced to art was through the Boreal Forest Institute. And so one of my first teachings was that as an artist, as a person who's creating, what that does, that place of creation is actually almost like a prayer. It's almost like a meditative space. So when you go into that place, you want to have clean hands, you want to be smudged, you want to be prepared. You're responsible for that energy as it goes out into the world. A quote from Alex Janvier many years ago was that he said, "You can tell an ugly story with your art, but don't make ugly art." Nothing makes me happier than to do an art installation out in the open and to have elders and other people come in and want to live there because they feel it. They feel that ceremony. And so it's really important that I smudge the grounds, that I walk my ceremony, that I do what I need to do so that all of my things are put together the right way, so that people don't just fall in love with the aesthetic, but they actually want to be closer to Creator. They want to understand more.
It is more than just this contemporary Indigenous art. It is this infused with this creation and the Indigenous history that we are all woven into.
Like I said, that is the biggest compliment to me, is when somebody comes up to me and says, "I know you're Cree, I know what you're doing, I know what you've said. Thank you."
Thank you so much for coming on to this program and sharing a bit about your artistic wisdom and some of your stories from your past and where you've come from and what you're up to. I am a huge fan of your work. I have to say, I've been fangirling out all day that I get to talk to you. And thank you, viewers who have tuned in for the Indigenous Artist Hub video today. Dreamspeakers and Punctuate Theatre would also like to thank their funders. Without their support, this project would not be possible. Make sure to check out all of the other Indigenous artists we are highlighting in this series. Once again, I'm Rebecca Sadowski, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.